Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Paula. I saw you already in here. Good morning. Hope everyone's having an amazing day. It is your girl Tanisha Shanae, Miss Inspiration. We are here with another episode of Morning Inspiration with Friends. We're here every day about 7-ish Central Time and um, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. That is the times that we're here Monday through Friday. Thursdays, we do a nice little throwback Thursday because your girl's been doing this for a long time. So I literally have content for days that I can always share and we can always go back and recap. So make sure you tune in on Thursdays as well. You never know how far back I'm going to go. I may go back to 2015 and I may go back to 2 weeks ago. Well, maybe not that close. Maybe at least 2 months ago. We have some really good content. Shout out to everyone that joins every morning. Paula, I know we have Suzanne that checks in on the replays, and Bola. Shout out to you all for just always being consistent and being here with me as well, because sometimes it's hard to show up. Um, but yeah, so today I want to talk about something good. I want to talk about this conversation came up a week and a half ago. So a week and a half ago, I was on a young lady. Her name is Sierra Shanae. And Sierra is a speaker coach, help people with their branding, with their messaging. I met Sierra through social media back in like 2016, and I spoke at one of her speaker camps um I want to say like 2018, 2019. I spoke at her speaker camp and it was a great experience. So she is doing some revamping and she brought in some of the old speakers to come and just kind of give their perspective as how the retreat went and everything. And one of the questions that she had mentioned pivoting, right? She was like, a lot of people are trying to pivot, so that started the conversation with pivoting and just knowing that, not every pivot is going to be purpose driven or purposeful. Some people are just pivoting because, they're looking at what everyone else is doing and they're doing the compare and contrast of, what this person is doing is and they're successful, so maybe I should do it too. These people don't have no passion about it, they have no desire, but they just see other people doing it. And then 2 days ago I saw another person and they were speaking about, um, are you pivoting or are you panicking? And that's when I was just like, I'm not going to steal it, but these are conversations that we actually need to have, because I know that, people are pivoting in relationships out of fear. People are pivoting in jobs out of fear, and people are pivoting in their business out of fear as well. And so I definitely want to talk about that because if we're really operating out of faith, right? Then we can't have the fear part of it. Now you can have concerns, you can have questions, or you can talk to God about it. And I encourage that because the one thing I want so many people to understand, and this is just my experience with my relationship with God. People have told us, at least I have heard over the years, like, you don't question God, you don't ask God questions. But at least in my experience, I do advocate that you ask those hard questions. You can ask God why. And if you listen, He will give you revelation and clarity as to why. And that could be for multiple things. And you still might not understand the why, but at least you know that you can go and you can say, hey, God, like, why is this happening? Or should I really be doing this? Like, it's okay to ask those kind of questions. So the first thing I do want to really touch upon is that, when you are dealing with this question of, should I start pivoting? Should I start doing things a little bit different in my business? Should I start going a different direction in my content, right? So this can also apply to content creators. A lot of times people start to pivot and start making changes in their content because they may be looking at low views. They may not have the engagement that they're seeking. And they feel as though if they do it a different way, like other people are doing it, it's going to yield the same results. And that's not necessarily true, right? The one thing that I have to learn, even in this process, right? If you go back and you look at most of the Morning Inspiration with Friends since I started, there's some days that I would get 3 views, right? 3 views on the whole video. And then there's some days you go back and it's like 500 views on a video. that wasn't just because of me and the content that I'm creating. There's a system that goes into it, right? So after I do about this live, and I'm not disclosing this for any other reason, but to give you understanding, when I finish this live, I have a young lady that goes in and she optimizes my lives, right? So she's the one that, yes, we might not have all the people with us live on YouTube, but afterwards, we would start seeing those changes because now she would go in and do all the other SEO background things that needs to be done. So someone could be really comparing their great work to someone who has a whole team. They have a budget. They have someone that they can go and say, "Hey, I'm not liking the way that these videos, the views are coming in. Let's re-optimize. Let's try something different." They can have a system behind it, so you could truly be comparing something that is a lot more established, a lot more concrete. And now you're worrying, you're panicking, and you're like, "I'm just gonna pivot. I'm gonna do something different." When it's like, wait, that's not what we need you to do. You might just now need to also figure out. Good morning, Bola. You might now need to figure out how to either learn how to do those things, or I had to cut back. And I'm like, look, I gotta invest in my brands because I know that this is something that is important, and I just had to go into that. So I didn't change directions. I didn't say, we're not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to go live in the morning any longer because I'm not getting the views. People are not joining me live. I understand there's other things that I need to do. Like there's actually one more thing that I need to do and I haven't done in and that is part of my overthinking and being so critical of myself. But I have like, can I tell y'all, I have like over 1,000 clips, like shorts that I can just pop up. But because one, I still sometimes struggle with listening to my own voice, and then two, sometimes when they when StreamYard, because you notice I use StreamYard, they will give me the clips. Like I can generate the clips at the end, and then I can literally just pull them and just put them up on YouTube and just like kind of copy the SEO that she did, while maybe adding a text layer to put like the captions or put like a title. But I have like over 1,000. And I actually said to myself yesterday, I need to go on Fiverr and I need to just find someone to help me to just pump out all of those shorts. Because once we do that, then we can do more promotion for the morning inspiration with friends. So there's like layers to this. So sometimes I think that people don't understand the layers to things. And so they get, because they look at the results. Now they're like, let me just pivot. Let me just pivot, right? So I want you to check the motivation behind that move before you make that move, right? Don't make a whole change and a whole plan, or don't just abort something immediately and just start. I'm just going to pivot because you know this is not yielding the results, or it's not yielding the outcomes that you're looking for. Right. I want you to really ask yourself, am I pivoting because there's some clarity? God gave me the instructions to move forward and how to move, or am I reacting to some type of doubt, right? Some type of self doubt, some type of peer pressure, or just comparisons, right? And I don't want you to compare. Don't compare your journey because you don't know what people have. Some people have huge budgets for these types of things. So I don't look at anyone else's stuff and be like, oh man, I wish that I can get on live. Like I've been on people's live and they have had like 800 people join in like the first 15 minutes. I've seen that. And I know that is definitely possible, but I also know the backstory to how those people got there. And I listened to how they got started and how they had to just like really start putting out more content, more highlights, right? Especially on the YouTube world. YouTube is so big that it's you really have to like put out those shorts. Shorts gets a lot of views, and then what ends up happening is that you start building that community, right? So you just I want you to really just check your motivation, right, before you actually pivot. Don't go and pivot, and then you're like, oh wait, this was the wrong idea, right? Or you might just end up pivoting and doing something that you're not even passionate about. Like that's something that I have done in the past in just life. You go another direction because it's like, oh, well, this might be easier. Easy is not always purposeful, right? Keep purpose in the back of your mind. The second thing that can end up happening is that your fear of failure, it can really mask your strategy. So many times people will look at this whole rebrand as a way to avoid um they would do like a whole a rebrand to avoid their authentic self, to really just sit back and just say, you know what, I don't have to be the person that, that I really want to be. I'm going to try to be like someone else. And we're doing that out of fear, right? And I know that today's Wednesday. So Monday, Tulsa Remote had an event, and we had the superintendent of Tulsa Public Schools. Shout out to Dr. Ebony. Amazing story. I love listening to her story. And she said that, the one thing that she doesn't regret, she never stopped being her authentic self. From the time that she was a teacher, straight out of college, to now years later becoming the superintendent of what the I think I think they said that Tulsa Public Schools is the third largest employer in the state of Oklahoma. So just imagine that. And she's like, there was fear. There was times that she was rejected, and she was thinking about going a different direction. Right? She was thinking about pivoting, and then she was like, "Wait, like, why do I need to do that? Like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to run away from who I am and who I know I am deep down inside, because I'm going to allow this fear, So she didn't go a rebrand. She stayed the course, and I think that's what a lot of us need to do. This is where we got to really just dig deep and say, okay, God, what's your will for my life? Right. And she did mention God quite often in her journey. I was telling, I know Bola, I don't know if you're still here, but I was telling Bola yesterday. If you can actually can Google it, because I found the article. I found several articles. When this superintendent was hired, she was sued by people on the board. Like, the board sued her in the district for hiring her. So imagine getting hired, and then shortly after you're getting sued. You know, to me, that's insane. I've never heard of anything like that before a day in my life. That I'm doing something, like, I'm so qualified and I'm doing all these great things, and I get hired for one of the biggest roles in the entire organization, and then you turn around and get fired. You get sued by two people that was a part of that hiring process. Insane. But she said that she refused to rebrand. She refused to go a different path. She knew this is where she was supposed to be. And I truly, truly believe that she is. Like, just listening to her story, I pray that the Tulsa public school system improves and gets better, so that the state doesn't have to come in and take over. But I do see that she can make some impact. So shout out to her. The last thing is that sometimes when you're pivoting, you have to figure out that just because you're uncomfortable doesn't mean that you're misaligned, right? And I think that is also something that a lot of us tend to be run away from. And I know we spoke about this when I first started the 21 day Miss Living and Thriving as Miss Inspiration months ago. Wow, it's about to knock on July. We still here. Shout out to all of us. We are still here, and it's almost July. But when we're uncomfortable, that does not mean that you're not aligned, that you're not in the right path. Um, just because something is hard doesn't mean that you're not on the right path, right? We have to understand a lot of this is new to us, especially when you are doing the things that God is asking you to do, and you're doing it the way that God needs for you to do it, right? It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to take some time for you to truly, fully embrace it. But just because you initially feel that uncomfort or that discomfort doesn't mean that, oh, you're doing the wrong thing or you're completely off path. You need to kind of tap into that a little bit more, right? And ask God to give you that strength, that courage to get through that discomfort, right? Because He understands. Trust me, everyone who knows my story, when I started teaching 15 years ago, come August, I started to teach. I did not want to be a teacher. I had created all of these narratives about why I should not be a teacher, from I don't like children, to I don't like people, I stutter, I don't like my voice. Like, I created all of these narratives, and I was just like, this is so uncomfortable. But I needed the money, so I had to do it. And I ended up falling in love in what I was doing. So it was definitely purposeful. I was definitely aligned, but I was still uncomfortable. Like that first year, that was terrifying. Plus, I was 25. So 25 years old, going into adult education. So I was teaching out of college and then went also was working at a trade school. Most of my students were older than me. And I mean, not even about like a year. We're talking about most of my adult students at the trade school had to be 30 to about 65. Now, the college was different. I was teaching in the daytime. Those are more traditional students. So those are the students that came like directly out of high school and went into college. But I went from pretty much 17 to 65 was my range. I had a lot of uncomfortable moments because my students are looking at me like, I mean, I had students question me, are you even qualified to teach me? And I'm like, I think I am, and I know I am because I know what I had experienced. I've been in the workforce since I was 14 years old, working back then. I used to work in the music industry at major record labels, and I mean, we're talking about real office operations, real office procedures, and now I'm teaching my students that everything that I had learned when I was 15 years old. So I felt like yes, I did have the experience, and you trying to make me uncomfortable doesn't mean that you're going to take me off this path. I know I'm supposed to be here in the lives that I have impacted, the people that I have, literally like helping someone to not take the step of losing their life because I just got that instant. So I know where I was supposed to be. And I'm just so thankful that I did not allow that uncomfortable moment or any of those painful, out the box to stop me to say, you know what, let me just get out of here. This is not my range. It's not for me. I had to grow into it. I had to grow into learning to embrace that God places in me naturally because I have had the path of higher education that everyone told me was going to be completely different. Oh, in order for you to teach full time, you need to have this. You need to have this kind of experience. And God was just like, no, 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 don't listen to them. Right? It's sometimes that's what ends up happening. You end up pivoting because you're listening to everyone else. And God is like, I already made the path for you. This is going to be the easiest path. And I'm telling you now, people are going to dislike you for that. People are going to dislike you because they didn't have an easy path like you did because they're not doing what God is telling them to do. They're not in alignment, right? They got uncomfortable and was like, oh, this ain't for me. And they moved on. But you look at that uncomfortable moment and that uncomfortable season and said, let me grow through this because I know that I belong here. Something special is about to happen because I'm doing what God is telling me to do. So I want you to embrace this, but I want you to also think before you take any necessary steps because I don't want you to get off path just because it's uncomfortable. Don't abort this mission. Don't get misaligned because you want the easy way. I don't know. I've tried the easy ways. And at the end of the day, it's not easy. What Bola said, right? So Bola said, God creates the path and we have to be obedient and walk in it. And this is something, if you have not learned anything from anything that I've said in the last, what, 3 months? 3 months. You have to obey what God is telling you to do. We have to obey. Again, if I'm going to trust anyone, it's going to be the person that already know the end. He already know how this is going to play out, right? And if he gives me instructions and says, I need you to do these steps 1 through 8 exactly as I outline it for you, why wouldn't you want to do it that way? He knows the end. So if he knows the end, he knows the path to get there. He knows the steps that's going to take. He knows everything that you're supposed to be doing. And he knows what adversity you're going to be faced with, right? He knows everything. He knows what's going to end up happening. They do, Bola. They do. People really do need encouragement. They do need a community that's going to embrace this. And unfortunately, that's the one problem that a lot of people they some people just don't look for the community, right? And I understand like social media has made the community term seem oversaturated, or everyone has a community and they want you to pay thousands of dollars to be in their community. You got to just do the research, right? You got a community right here every day, morning inspiration with friends. This is their community. right? You want to go deeper into a community, you can join Inspirational Trailblazers. You want to go deeper into community, there's so many different levels. So you got to find the community that's going to work for you, that's going to keep you encouraged, because unfortunately, it is challenging to stay encouraged when you're going a path that you've never gone before. I've always been thankful that I had Ebola to encourage me, right? She was one, honestly, and I always give her credit because she helped me to understand something that I didn't realize, that I was already operating in purpose, right? When God started to speak to me about purpose was in 2015. I we met 2014. So God started to speak to me about purpose in 2014 before I started working where we connected. And I still didn't have a real understanding of it, because no one in my circle, right? No one in my circle was speaking about that. Everyone is just like the hustle and grind mode. You do what you got to do, which is not a horrible mindset. But I wanted the relaxed life, right? And so when I started to seek that, I started to seek people who were speaking about this thing that God was speaking to me about, right? Because if He's speaking to me about purpose, I need to now go and find people who are also speaking about purpose. And so when I started to find, that's when really I dived deep into Miles Monroe, Dr. Miles Monroe, may he rest in peace. His teachings, the beautiful part about it is his teachings are out there. He speaks a lot about purpose. He has books about purpose. And then God placed a person who was operating in purpose in my life. So now it just started to make sense. And then, we used to do like masterminds together, amazing things, because there were other people who also wanted that. We needed to have those conversations. And then we took it online. Like we did a lot, but we did a lot. As I'm sitting here reflecting, we definitely did a lot, like with like Blab and Periscope back in the days, because we wanted to have these conversations. Because if I just had this epiphany, if I just had this epiphany in 2014, no clue about what it was, I had to now find it, and just how many other people were doing the same thing. And so that's something that I do encourage you, right? Ebola, we might need to run that back. We might need to. We definitely will. I feel that coming on. Because people do, right? And I always feel as though the only way that you're going to move further when it comes to these types of conversations is if you find the people that are already living it, right? It's so we can sit around and talk to people who don't, right? We know people who's not going to do it, but finding people that are doing it and they are fully living it. So as always, before I leave, I want to give you a prompt, right? The prompt that I want to give you is, am I moving towards God, something God led, or something, or running from something fear led, right? This is a prompt that I want to give you regarding this. Because again, if you are feeling yourself in this space of, I need to start pivoting, I need to start to pivot, before you pivot, is God leading you towards this? Or are you running away from something? Is it something that you are purposely afraid of? And I want you to think about that before you take that step. And again, this could be content creation, business ideas, job, relationships, friendships, any part of your life you can apply this to. Don't look at it from just one standpoint. Take the same question and start to look at it from different perspectives. And that is going to help you to answer those questions and get the clarity, right? I've been talking a lot for the last 2 days about fasting, right? Even before we even dive into a fast as a group, fast, right? Maybe one day, maybe take from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. What's that, 1 p.m. and you fast and you remove something and you go into prayer, right? When I used to do daily fast like that, I would do it in that order, like 7 to 12, 7 to 1. And every hour I was like going into the bathroom praying because I was at work, but it was serious because again, work was important, but me losing my home was even more important. Like I wasn't trying to lose my home. So I was like, class, give me 10 minutes, we go into the restroom. And I was going to the restroom to pray because I was like, God, I need, when this fast breaks, I need some kind of answers, I need some I need next steps, so I do encourage that is something that's placed on your heart. So yeah, so I definitely just encourage that, use this prompt for the way that you need to. And as always, we're here every Monday through Friday. Tomorrow is going to be a Throwback Thursday message. It's going to be a great one. But if you do need to connect, down in my description. You can go to my link tree. You can connect about my books, my community, my courses, my blog. But yeah, I'm excited. And I am definitely encouraging you to go out there and just have those amazing conversations with God and let that prompt. I'm going to put the prompt back up because, again, I think this is a really good one, especially if you're in that feeling of, I need to make a change. Don't make a change yet. Talk about it with God first. Bola, you are absolutely welcome. Thank you for being here. Paula, thank you for being here live as well. And everyone else who's watching on the replay, welcome. Thank you. I hope that you enjoy this message. Drop a comment below so that I know that if you have any questions or any insight that you would like, please do not hesitate to engage in this post at all. If you want to come back and you want to share some insight about when you did answer that prompt, when you worked through that prompt with God, if you got some clarity or some guidance or next steps that you would like to share, don't go into full details, but we just like to know that, you're actually sitting and having those conversations with God and you just get those aha moments, and you start realizing, yeah, maybe I was running away from something, and I'm running because I'm afraid, versus God is being strategic and saying, yes, this is time for you to shift. So that's why I'm giving you that. I gave you all that, and I'm glad we spoke about this today. So I am your girl, Tanisha Shanae, Miss Inspiration. You will see me tomorrow, and we'll be back live with me here physically in the chair on Friday morning. But I love you guys. Have an amazing day today. With purpose, on purpose. If you are anywhere and it's over 100 degrees outside, please drink your water. Stay hydrated. Stay cool. If you don't have to go outside, please don't go outside. But I'm praying for everyone. I know my family is up and down the East Coast and they're complaining. And for once, Oklahoma is not hotter than New York. So we're kind of like coasting at 88, 81, 88, 91, but with some wind. So we're always worried about tornadoes. So yeah. So y'all stay safe and y'all stay cool. And I love you guys. Be well and be blessed.